The ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, its sleek form cutting silently through the clouds. Below them, the desert stretched endlessly, a sea of sand and rock bathed in the golden glow of sunrise. Liam stared out the panoramic screen, his heart heavy with anticipation. "It feels strange to be back," he said softly, breaking the silence that had settled over the group. "Like we've been gone for years instead of weeks." Rachel nodded, clutching the small box of glowing seeds tightly in her hands. "We have changed," she said. "This place might not feel the same anymore." Cale stood quietly, his translucent form shimmering faintly in the morning light. For him, returning to Zorethia would be even harder. His world was dying, its people desperate for hope. Yet he felt a newfound determination. The knowledge they had gained, and the bond they had formed, would guide him. As the ship touched down near their original campsite, the group stepped outside, greeted by the familiar heat of the desert. The metallic fragments they had first discovered lay scattered where they had left them, now dull and lifeless without the energy of the ancient vessel. It was a reminder of how far they had come, and how much rested on their shoulders. "We should split up," Rachel suggested after a moment. "Liam, you take the seeds and share them with the research team. Explain everything, but carefully. They need to understand this isn't just about Earth." She turned to Cale. "And you need to get back to your people. They're counting on you." Cale inclined his head, gratitude flickering in his glowing eyes. "And you?" he asked. "What will you do?" Rachel smiled faintly, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "I'll stay here, for now. Someone needs to document all of this, make sure it doesn't get buried or misused. But I won't stop exploring. Not after everything we've seen." Liam hesitated, glancing between them. "Are you sure? We could stick together a little longer." Rachel shook her head. "This is just the beginning," she said firmly. "Each of us has a role to play. Trust me, we'll see each other again." With a final nod, the group parted ways. Liam carried the box of seeds back toward the research facility, his mind racing with plans to share their story without causing panic. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he also knew humanity couldn't afford to ignore the lessons they had learned. Cale, meanwhile, activated a small transport device provided by Solus, its hum filling the air as it enveloped him in light. In moments, he was gone, returning to Zorethia to begin the long process of healing his planet. The knowledge he brought with him would change his people's future, if they chose to embrace it. Rachel watched them go, her heart swelling with both pride and uncertainty. Alone in the desert, she opened a journal and began to write, pouring every detail of their journey onto the pages. The stars above seemed closer than ever, their light a promise of what lay ahead. Days turned into weeks, and slowly the impact of their discoveries began to ripple outward. On Earth, scientists marveled at the glowing seeds, using them to develop sustainable technologies that healed damaged ecosystems. News of the alien encounter spread cautiously, sparking debates about humanity's place in the universe. Some feared the unknown, but others saw it as an opportunity, a chance to grow. On Zorethia, Cale worked tirelessly to implement the solutions Solus had provided, rallying his people to restore their world. The once dying planet began to flourish again, its skies clearing and its rivers flowing freely. Stories of Earth's resilience inspired his people to dream of peaceful coexistence. And Rachel? She became a bridge between worlds, sharing her writings and insights with anyone willing to listen. Her work inspired countless others to look beyond their own horizons, to seek understanding rather than fear. Though their paths had diverged, the bond they shared remained unbroken. Together, they had proven that even the most unlikely alliances could shape the course of history. As the ship rested silently in the desert, waiting for its next journey, the universe seemed a little less vast and a little more hopeful. The ship sailed through the vastness of space, its course set for a distant star system. The group had grown quieter since their encounter with the abandoned planet, each lost in their own thoughts. The images of the vine-covered pods, and the desperate carvings lingered in their minds, a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition. Yet, despite the weight of what they had seen, there was a shared determination to keep moving forward, to learn, to grow, and to ensure that such mistakes were not repeated. As they approached their next destination, a shimmering blue planet came into view. Its surface sparkled like a gemstone, covered in sprawling oceans and scattered islands. Unlike the previous worlds they had visited, this one radiated warmth and life. Faint signals of activity could be detected from orbit. Simple structures, fields of crops, and even signs of movement. "This place feels alive," Rachel said softly, her eyes fixed on the screen. "Almost like it's waiting for us." Cale nodded, his glowing form steady but curious. "Perhaps it is," he replied. "Let us approach with care." The ship descended gently into the atmosphere, landing near a cluster of small villages built along the shore. The inhabitants, humanoid in appearance, but with faintly luminescent skin, emerged cautiously to greet them. They carried no weapons, only offerings of fruit and woven fabrics, their expressions calm and welcoming. "Who are you?" one of them asked, their voice soft and melodic. It wasn't spoken aloud but resonated directly in the group's minds, much like Cale's telepathic communication. "We are travelers," Cale answered, stepping forward. "We come in peace, seeking knowledge." The villagers exchanged glances, then smiled warmly. "You are welcome here," the speaker said. "We have long awaited visitors who share our love for harmony." Over the next few days, the group immersed themselves in the villagers' way of life. They learned how the people lived in balance with their environment, drawing sustenance without depleting resources. Their homes were made from materials that regrew naturally, and their farming methods enriched the soil rather than exhausting it. Even their tools were crafted to last, designed to minimize waste. Rachel was particularly fascinated by their storytelling traditions. Each night, the villagers gathered around a central fire to share tales of their ancestors, lessons passed down through generations about living in unity with nature. "This is incredible," she said one evening, sitting beside Liam as the flames danced. "They'd found a way to thrive without destroying their world." Liam nodded, his expression thoughtful. "It's like they figured out what we're still struggling with," he said. "Maybe Earth could learn from them." Cale joined them, his glowing eyes reflecting the firelight. "Their wisdom is a gift," he said, "but gifts must be earned, not taken. We must honor their trust." On their final night, the villagers held a ceremony to celebrate their bond with the travelers. Music filled the air, played on instruments made from natural materials, and laughter echoed under the starlit sky. As the festivities drew to a close, the village elder approached the group, holding a small, intricately carved box. "This is for you," the elder said, placing the box in Rachel's hands. "It contains seeds from our world, seeds of hope and renewal. Share them wisely." Rachel opened the box carefully, revealing tiny, glowing orbs nestled within. She felt a lump rise in her throat. "Thank you," she managed to say, her voice trembling. "We'll make sure they're used for good." As they prepared to leave, the villagers gathered to bid them farewell, their faces filled with quiet confidence. "Remember," the elder said, "the universe thrives when we work together. Carry this lesson with you." Back aboard the ship, the group stood silently in the control chamber, the box of seeds resting on a nearby console. Liam broke the silence first. "What do we do now?" he asked. "Earth and Zorethia are so different. How do we bring them together?" Rachel looked at him, then at Cale. "We start small," she said firmly. "One step at a time. If we can show both sides the value of cooperation, maybe they'll listen." Cale nodded, his expression resolute. "Then let us begin," he said. "Together." With their hearts full of hope and their minds clear, they set their course for home, ready to bridge the gap between their worlds, and perhaps change the future for the better. The ship continued its journey through the stars, each new destination bringing fresh wonders and challenges. The group had grown more comfortable with their roles aboard the vessel, working together seamlessly to navigate its controls and interpret Solus's guidance. But as they approached their next stop, a small, unassuming planet orbiting a dim star, Rachel felt a strange unease settle over her. Something about this world felt different. "It's quiet," she said softly, staring at the planet on the panoramic screen. Its surface was covered in dense forests and shimmering lakes, but there were no signs of civilization, or even animal life. Too quiet. Cale nodded, his glowing eyes narrowing slightly. "Perhaps it is abandoned," he suggested, "or perhaps it hides its secrets well." Liam leaned forward, adjusting one of the ship's sensors. "There's definitely something down there," he said. The readings showed traces of advanced technology buried beneath the surface. Curious, they decided to land. The ship descended gently into a clearing surrounded by towering trees, their leaves glowing faintly as if infused with light. As they stepped outside, the air was cool and crisp, carrying a faint floral scent. It was peaceful, almost too perfect. "This place feels wrong," Rachel muttered, glancing around nervously. The forest was silent, not even the rustle of leaves breaking the stillness. Cale placed a hand on her shoulder. "Stay alert," he advised. "We do not know what we may encounter." They moved cautiously toward the center of the clearing, where the ground sloped downward into a hidden entrance. A set of metallic doors, partially covered by vines, stood before them. Liam reached out to touch the surface, and the doors slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a dark corridor beyond. Inside, the walls were lined with intricate carvings, depicting scenes of beings living in harmony with nature. The images showed them planting seeds, tending to crops, and nurturing wildlife. But as they ventured deeper, the carvings changed. The once peaceful figures now appeared desperate, clutching weapons and battling shadowy creatures that seemed to rise from the ground itself. "What happened here?" Liam asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Their hubris," Solus's voice echoed softly. "This civilization sought to control nature, bending it to their will. In doing so, they unleashed forces they could not contain." Rachel shivered, her earlier unease growing stronger. "Do you think whatever destroyed them is still here?" she asked. Cale raised a hand, signaling for silence. Ahead, the corridor opened into a large chamber filled with glowing pods. Inside each pod floated a figure, suspended in some kind of stasis. Their faces were serene, but their bodies were covered in strange, vine-like growths that pulsed faintly with light. "They tried to preserve themselves," Cale observed, stepping closer. "But it seems the life they created turned against them." As they examined the pods, the vine-like growths began to stir, spreading slowly across the floor. Rachel stumbled back, her heart racing. "We need to leave," she exclaimed. Before they could retreat, the vines surged forward, wrapping around their legs. Liam struggled to free himself, pulling out a tool from his belt to cut through the thick strands. "Keep moving," he shouted, slashing at the growths. Cale focused his energy, creating a barrier to hold the vines at bay. "Find the source," he instructed. "Destroy it." Rachel spotted a central console at the far end of the chamber, its surface covered in glowing symbols. She ran toward it, her hands trembling as she pressed random panels. The console lit up, and the vines froze mid-motion before retreating back into the walls. Breathing heavily, the group regrouped near the entrance. "That was close," Liam said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "What was that thing?" "A warning," Cale replied grimly. "A reminder of what happens when balance is lost." Rachel nodded, her mind racing. "We can't let anyone make the same mistake," she said firmly. "We have to share this story. With Earth, with Zorathia, with everyone." As they returned to the ship, the planet's serene exterior seemed darker, heavier. The experience had shaken them, but it had also strengthened their resolve. They were learning not just about the universe, but about themselves, and the responsibility that came with their newfound knowledge. Back aboard the ship, Solus spoke softly. Your journey has only begun, it said. But remember, wisdom is your greatest ally. Use it wisely. With renewed determination, the group set their course for the next destination, ready to face whatever awaited them among the stars. The ship glided through the stars, its sleek form cutting effortlessly through the vastness of space. Inside, Liam, Rachel, and Kale stood together in the control chamber, their eyes wide as they took in the endless expanse before them. The view was breathtaking. Countless galaxies stretched out like scattered jewels, each one a swirl of colors and light. It felt surreal to be so far from Earth, yet the hum of the ship beneath their feet reminded them that this was real. This is incredible, Liam murmured, his voice filled with wonder. He reached out instinctively, as if trying to touch the stars displayed on the panoramic screen. I've seen pictures of space before, but this is something else. Rachel nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon of a nearby nebula. Its vibrant hues shimmered like an oil painting come to life. It's beautiful, she said softly, but it's also humbling. Out here, we're just a tiny speck in the universe. Kale stood silently, his glowing eyes reflecting the starlight. For him, this journey was more than exploration. It was a chance to bring hope back to his people. We are small, he agreed, but we are not insignificant. What we do matters. Every choice, every action ripples outward. Solus's voice echoed gently in the chamber, breaking the quiet moment. Your first destination approaches, it announced. Ahead of them, a massive planet loomed into view, its surface covered in swirling clouds of green and gold. Lightning crackled across its atmosphere, illuminating the darkness of space. What is this place? Rachel asked, stepping closer to the screen. A world of storms, Solus replied. Its energy sustains countless forms of life, though none you would recognize. It is a reminder of nature's power and its balance. As the ship descended into the planet's atmosphere, the group braced themselves for what they might find. The air outside crackled with electricity, and flashes of lightning illuminated the cabin. Through the chaos, they caught glimpses of strange creatures darting through the skies. Beings made entirely of energy, their forms shifting and glowing like living flames. These creatures exist in harmony with the storms, Solus explained. They draw strength from the planet's energy, giving back in return. A perfect cycle. Rachel watched in awe as one of the creatures approached the ship, its glowing form pulsing rhythmically. It seemed curious, tilting its head-like shape toward them before darting away. They're amazing, she whispered, so different from anything on Earth or Zorathia. Liam nodded, his earlier excitement tempered by a sense of responsibility. Do you think other planets will be like this? He asked. Full of life we don't understand. Some will, Kale answered. Others may be barren or hostile. But every world has its own story. Our task is to listen, to learn without taking. The ship soon left the stormy planet behind, emerging once again into the calm silence of space. As they traveled onward, Solus guided them to another destination, a cluster of asteroids orbiting a dying star. The rocks were jagged and cold, their surfaces pockmarked with craters. Yet within them, the group discovered something unexpected, crystals glowing faintly with an inner light. These are remnants of an ancient civilization, Solus explained. They stored knowledge within these stones, hoping future travelers would find them. Rachel carefully examined one of the crystals, holding it up to the light. Can we read them? She asked. Yes, Solus replied, but only those who approach with respect. Knowledge is a gift, not a weapon. With care, the group extracted several crystals, storing them safely aboard the ship. Each discovery deepened their understanding of the universe and their place within it. They began to see how interconnected everything was, from the smallest asteroid to the largest galaxy. As the days passed, the group grew closer, their shared experiences forging a bond stronger than any of them had expected. Liam's humor balanced Rachel's curiosity, while Cal's wisdom grounded them both. Together, they navigated challenges and marveled at wonders, their differences becoming strengths rather than barriers. One evening, as they floated near a distant sun, Rachel looked at her companions and smiled. "Do you ever think about how crazy this all is?" she asked. "A few weeks ago, I was studying rocks in the desert. Now, I'm flying through space with aliens." Liam chuckled. "Crazy doesn't even cover it," he said. "But I wouldn't trade it for anything." Cal tilted his head, his expression thoughtful. "Perhaps this is why we were brought together," he said, "to show that even the most unlikely alliances can change the course of history." And as the ship carried them deeper into the unknown, they knew their journey was just beginning. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together, as explorers, pioneers, and friends. The ship's chamber came back into focus, its walls glowing softly as if welcoming them home. The orb of solace hovered in the center, its light steady and warm. Around them, the symbols on the floor shimmered faintly, pulsing in rhythm with the hum that filled the air. It felt like the ship itself was alive, breathing alongside them. "You have earned my trust," Solace said, its voice calm but filled with authority. "Now I will fulfill your wishes." The orb's glow intensified, and a series of images began to appear in the air around them. For Cal, the vision showed lush forests, clear rivers, and skies filled with vibrant colors, his dying planet restored to life. He watched silently, his glowing eyes reflecting both hope and awe. This is possible?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. "It is," Solace replied. "With the knowledge I grant you, your people can heal their world. But remember, wisdom must guide your actions." Next, Liam saw himself standing in a bustling city, surrounded by towering structures covered in greenery. Solar panels stretched across rooftops, and wind turbines spun lazily in the distance. Cars glided silently along the streets, powered by clean energy. "This could be Earth," Solace explained, "a future where humanity lives in harmony with its planet. You will understand how to create it." Liam stared at the vision, his heart pounding. "It's beautiful," he murmured, almost to himself. "But do we deserve it?" "That is for you to decide," Solace said simply. "The tools are yours. Use them wisely." Finally, Rachel stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the orb. Around her, the air seemed to shimmer as if the universe itself was unfolding before her. She saw stars forming, galaxies spinning, and planets coming to life. She glimpsed ancient civilizations rising and falling, their stories etched into the fabric of time. And then she saw herself, not as she was now, but as she could be, a seeker of truths, a bridge between worlds. "This is only the beginning," Solace told her. "Your journey will take you far beyond what you can imagine. But know this, you are not alone. The universe will guide you." As the visions faded, the group stood in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. The weight of what they had been given settled over them, heavy yet exhilarating. They had come seeking answers, but they had found something far greater: purpose. Cal broke the silence first. "We must return to our people," he said, his tone resolute. "They need to know what we've discovered." Rachel nodded slowly. "And we need to share this with Earth," she added. "Even if they're not ready, they deserve to know there's hope." Liam hesitated, looking around at the ship's glowing interior. "What about this place?" he asked. "What happens to it?" To Solace. The orb pulsed gently, as if in response. "I am bound to this vessel," Solace explained, "but my knowledge is now yours to carry. The ship will remain here, hidden until others prove themselves worthy. Until then, it is yours to command for a time." Rachel glanced at Cal and Liam, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Then I guess we have a decision to make," she said. "Do we go back to our worlds, or do we see where this ship can take us?" Cal tilted his head thoughtfully. "Perhaps both," he suggested. "We could take turns guiding the ship, sharing its gifts equally among our species. Together, we could explore the stars. Liam grinned, the idea sparking excitement in his chest. A joint mission, he said. Humans and Zorethians, working side by side. That's never been done before. Rachel nodded, her earlier doubts replaced by determination. Then let's do it, she said. Let's show everyone, on Earth, on Zorathia, everywhere, that cooperation is possible, that we're stronger together. With their decision made, the group turned to Solus. We're ready, Rachel said firmly. Show us how to fly this thing. The orb brightened, filling the chamber with light. Very well, Solus replied. Prepare yourselves. Your journey begins now. As the ship's systems activated, the walls dissolved into a panoramic view of the stars. The desert outside fell away, replaced by the vastness of space. For the first time, Liam, Rachel, and Cale truly understood the enormity of what they had undertaken. They were no longer just explorers. They were pioneers, carrying the hopes of two worlds into the unknown. And so, with the ship humming beneath their feet and the galaxy stretching out before them, they set their course for the stars. The final trial began without delay. One moment, the group was standing in the void, and the next, they found themselves in a vast, empty plain. The ground beneath them was cracked and dry, stretching endlessly in every direction. Above them, the sky churned with dark clouds, lightning flashing sporadically. It was unnerving, but what made the scene truly unsettling was the silence. There was no wind, no sound of thunder, just an oppressive stillness that weighed heavily on their shoulders. This is your last challenge, Solus's voice echoed around them. It will test your unity. Only by working together can you succeed. Before anyone could respond, the ground beneath them began to shift. A deep rumble reverberated through the air as massive shapes rose from the cracks in the earth. They were towering constructs, humanoid in shape, but made entirely of jagged metal. Their eyes glowed red, and their movements were jerky yet deliberate. Without warning, the constructs lunged forward, surrounding the group. What do we do? Liam asked, his voice rising in panic as he backed away from the nearest construct. Rachel glanced at Cole, who stood calm despite the danger. We fight, he said simply, but not alone. Together. The first construct swung its massive arm toward Rachel, but Cale stepped in front of her just in time, raising his hand. A shimmering barrier appeared, deflecting the blow. Now, he shouted, turning to Liam. Distract it. Liam didn't hesitate. Grabbing a piece of broken rock from the ground, he hurled it at the construct's glowing eyes. The creature stumbled backward, momentarily disoriented. Seizing the opportunity, Rachel ran toward another construct, searching for a weak spot. She noticed a faint seam running along its chest and pointed it out to Cale. There, she yelled. Aim for that. Cale nodded, focusing his energy. A bolt of light shot from his fingertips, striking the seam. The construct staggered, its movements slowing as if it were losing power. In courage, Rachel grabbed a sharp shard of metal from the ground and climbed onto the construct's leg, using all her strength to pry open the damaged area. With a final effort, she yanked out a glowing core, and the construct collapsed into a heap of lifeless metal. Meanwhile, Liam continued to dodge attacks from the remaining constructs, drawing their attention away from the others. His quick thinking gave Cale and Rachel the time they needed to repeat their strategy. One by one, the towering machines fell, their cores removed, and their power drained. As the last construct hit the ground, the plane dissolved around them, leaving them once again in the swirling void. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Solus's voice filled the space, calm and approving. You have proven yourselves worthy, it said. Your courage, wisdom, and unity have earned my trust. The orb reappeared before them, its glow steady and warm. Ask of me what you desire, Solus continued. I will grant each of you one wish. Rachel exchanged glances with Liam and Cale, her mind racing. This was it, the moment they had been working toward. But now that they were here, the decision felt heavier than ever. What did they truly want? And more importantly, how could they ensure their choices would benefit not just themselves, but their worlds? Kale spoke first, his voice firm. "My planet is dying," he said. "If it is within your power, I ask for knowledge to heal it." Solus pulsed softly, acknowledging his request. "It shall be done." Liam hesitated, rubbing the back of his neck. "I don't know," he admitted. "There's so much wrong with Earth, but maybe I could help fix some of it. Can you show me how to make clean energy? Something that won't hurt the planet?" Solus hummed thoughtfully. "A noble wish," it replied. "It shall be granted." Finally, all eyes turned to Rachel. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. "I want to understand," she said softly. "Not just this ship or its secrets, but everything. The universe, life, why we're here. Can you teach me?" For a moment, Solus was silent. Then the orb brightened, its light enveloping her like a warm embrace. "Your curiosity will take you far," it said. "I will guide you." With their wishes granted, the group felt a wave of relief and gratitude. They had faced unimaginable challenges, but they had done it together. As the void began to dissolve once more, revealing the interior of the ship, Rachel couldn't help but smile. Whatever lay ahead, they were ready. The first trial began without warning. One moment, the group was standing in the swirling void, and the next, they found themselves in a vast, dimly lit room. The floor beneath them shimmered like liquid metal, rippling with every step they took. In the center of the room floated a large glowing cube, its surface covered in shifting patterns that seemed to twist and turn endlessly. "This is your first challenge," Solus's voice echoed around them. "You must solve the puzzle of the cube. It will test your ability to think clearly and work together." Liam stepped forward cautiously, his eyes fixed on the cube. "What happens if we mess it up?" he asked, glancing over his shoulder at Rachel and Kale. Rachel shrugged, her expression tense but determined. "I guess we'll find out," she said, trying to sound braver than she felt. Kale moved closer to the cube, studying it intently. "It reacts to touch," he observed, reaching out to tap one of its glowing panels. Instantly, the entire room shifted. The walls began to close in, moving slowly but steadily toward the group. Liam jumped back, his heart racing. "Okay, that's not good," he exclaimed. Rachel quickly joined Kale, her mind racing as she tried to make sense of the patterns on the cube. "It's like a logic puzzle," she said. "Each panel triggers something different. We need to figure out the right sequence." Working together, the three of them started experimenting. Liam pressed one panel, causing the walls to halt their advance momentarily. Rachel tapped another, and the floor beneath them stopped rippling. Kale studied the changes carefully, piecing together the connections between the panels. "It's about balance," he said finally. "We need to stabilize all elements at once." With careful coordination, they worked as a team. Rachel called out instructions while Liam and Kale followed her lead, pressing panels in quick succession. Slowly but surely, the room began to stabilize. The walls stopped closing in, and the floor grew still. Finally, the cube emitted a soft chime, its glow intensifying before fading away entirely. "Well done." Solus's voice rang out, calm and approving. "You have passed the first trial. Now, prepare for the second." Before they could catch their breath, the scene shifted again. This time, they found themselves standing in a dense forest, the air thick with the scent of pine. Above them, the sky was dark, streaked with flashes of lightning. In the distance, they could hear the faint sound of rushing water. "You are now in a simulation," Solus explained. "This trial will test your wisdom. Choose wisely, for your decision will shape the outcome." As they walked deeper into the forest, they came across a clearing where two figures stood waiting. One was an elderly man, frail and leaning heavily on a cane. The other was a young girl, no older than 10, clutching a stuffed animal tightly to her chest. Between them stretched a narrow bridge suspended over a raging river far below. "Only one may cross," the elderly man said, his voice trembling. "If both attempt it, the bridge will collapse." Rachel frowned, looking from the man to the girl. "Why can't we help both of them?" she asked, turning to Cale. He shook his head. "This is the test," he reminded her gently. "We must choose." Liam stepped forward, his jaw clenched. "The girl," he said firmly. "She has her whole life ahead of her." Rachel hesitated, torn. "But what about him?" she asked, gesturing to the elderly man. "He deserves a chance too." Cale placed a hand on her shoulder. "Sometimes sacrifice is necessary," he said softly. "Trust your instincts." After a long pause, Rachel nodded reluctantly. "Save the girl," she agreed, her voice heavy with emotion. As they guided the child across the bridge, the elderly man gave them a sad smile before stepping back into the shadows. The moment the girl reached safety, the forest dissolved around them, leaving them once again in the void. "You have shown wisdom," Solace said, "but the final trial awaits." The group exchanged weary glances, their nerves frayed but their determination unshaken. Whatever came next, they knew they would face it together. The next morning, the sun rose over the desert, casting long shadows across the barren landscape. Liam and Rachel found themselves sitting around a small fire with Cale and his crew. The air was filled with an uneasy silence, broken only by the crackling of burning wood. Despite their initial fear, the two humans had begun to feel a strange sense of calm in the presence of the aliens. There was something about Cal's steady demeanor that made them trust him, even though they barely understood who, or what, he was. Rachel leaned forward, brushing sand off her jeans. "So," she began hesitantly, "you said you're explorers. What exactly are you looking for out here?" Cale tilted his head, his glowing eyes narrowing slightly as if considering how much to reveal. "We seek knowledge," he replied, his voice resonating softly in their minds. "Our world is not like yours. It is dying. We hope to find answers elsewhere." Liam frowned, glancing at the scattered metallic fragments nearby. "And you think this stuff, whatever it is, can help you save your planet?" he asked, gesturing toward the debris. Cale didn't answer directly. Instead, he stepped closer to one of the larger pieces and knelt down, running a translucent hand over its smooth surface. "This material is unfamiliar to us," he admitted. "It does not belong to our technology or yours. That is why we are curious." Rachel exchanged a glance with Liam. She had spent years studying anomalies in the desert, but nothing like this had ever crossed her path. "If it's not yours, and it's not ours," she trailed off, her voice tinged with awe. "Then whose is it?" Cale straightened up, his expression unreadable. "That is what we must discover," he said, "but we cannot do it alone. Your understanding of this world may be valuable to us." His words hung in the air, carrying a weight neither human had expected. For a moment, Liam hesitated, unsure whether helping these strangers was the right choice. But Rachel spoke up before he could voice his doubts. "We'll help," she said firmly, meeting Cal's gaze. "But on one condition, you share everything you find with us. No secrets." Cale studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Agreed," he said. "Knowledge is meaningless if it is hoarded." With that, the group set off deeper into the desert, following the faint energy readings Cal's equipment had detected. The terrain grew rougher as they moved farther from their campsite, jagged rocks jutting out of the sand like broken teeth. The heat of the day pressed down on them, but none of them slowed their pace. Every step felt like it was bringing them closer to something monumental. After hours of walking, they reached a massive dune that loomed higher than any they'd seen so far. At its base, half buried in the sand, was the unmistakable outline of a structure. It was sleek and metallic, its surface gleaming faintly despite being coated in layers of dust. As they approached, Liam let out a low whistle. "That's no natural formation," he muttered, his voice tinged with disbelief. Rachel simply stared, her mouth slightly open. Even Cale seemed taken aback, his glowing eyes widening as he took in the sight. The object resembled a ship, though it looked nothing like anything humanity had ever built. Its design was sleek and organic, almost as if it had grown rather than been constructed. Strange symbols were etched into its surface, glowing faintly with a soft blue light. Rachel reached out instinctively, her fingers brushing against the cool metal. "It's warm," she murmured, pulling her hand back quickly. "Like it's alive." Cale stepped forward, his movements cautious but deliberate. "This is not Zorathian," he said, his tone heavy with wonder. "Nor is it human. This belongs to someone else entirely." He paused, turning to face the group. Someone far older. As they stood there, staring at the ancient vessel, a sudden rumble shook the ground beneath their feet. Sand slid down the sides of the dune, revealing more of the ship's massive form. Rachel stumbled back, grabbing onto Liam for balance. "What's happening?" she asked, her voice rising in alarm. Cale raised a hand, signaling for calm. "I do not know," he admitted, "but I believe we are about to find out." The rumbling subsided as quickly as it had started, leaving behind an eerie stillness. Slowly, a section of the ship began to shift, folding inward like liquid metal. A bright light spilled out from within, illuminating the stunned faces of everyone present. For a moment, no one moved. Then, from inside the ship, a voice echoed, not in words, but in feelings. It was welcoming, yet piercingly intelligent. "Come," Cale said finally, breaking the silence. "We have been invited." And with that, the unlikely group stepped forward, drawn by curiosity and the promise of answers hidden within the mysterious craft. The next morning, the sun rose over the desert, casting long shadows across the barren landscape. Liam and Rachel found themselves sitting around a small fire with Cale and his crew. The air was filled with an uneasy silence, broken only by the crackling of burning wood. Despite their initial fear, the two humans had begun to feel a strange sense of calm in the presence of the aliens. There was something about Cal's steady demeanor that made them trust him, even though they barely understood who, or what, he was. Rachel leaned forward, brushing sand off her jeans. "So," she began hesitantly, "you said you're explorers. What exactly are you looking for out here?" Cale tilted his head, his glowing eyes narrowing slightly as if considering how much to reveal. "We seek knowledge," he replied, his voice resonating softly in their minds. "Our world is not like yours. It is dying. We hope to find answers elsewhere." Liam frowned, glancing at the scattered metallic fragments nearby. "And you think this stuff, whatever it is, can help you save your planet?" he asked, gesturing toward the debris. Cale didn't answer directly. Instead, he stepped closer to one of the larger pieces and knelt down, running a translucent hand over its smooth surface. "This material is unfamiliar to us," he admitted. "It does not belong to our technology or yours. That is why we are curious." Rachel exchanged a glance with Liam. She had spent years studying anomalies in the desert, but nothing like this had ever crossed her path. "If it's not yours, and it's not ours," she trailed off, her voice tinged with awe. "Then whose is it?" Cale straightened up, his expression unreadable. "That is what we must discover," he said, "but we cannot do it alone. Your understanding of this world may be valuable to us." His word hung in the air, carrying a weight neither human had expected. For a moment, Liam hesitated, unsure whether helping these strangers was the right choice. But Rachel spoke up before he could voice his doubts. "We'll help," she said firmly, meeting Cal's gaze, "but on one condition: you share everything you find with us. No secrets." Cale studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Agreed," he said. "Knowledge is meaningless if it is hoarded." With that, the group set off deeper into the desert, following the faint energy readings Cal's equipment had detected. The terrain grew rougher as they moved farther from their campsite, jagged rocks jutting out of the sand like broken teeth. The heat of the day pressed down on them, but none of them slowed their pace. Every step felt like it was bringing them closer to something monumental. After hours of walking, they reached a massive dune that loomed higher than any they'd seen so far. At its base, half buried in the sand, was the unmistakable outline of a structure. It was sleek and metallic, its surface gleaming faintly despite being coated in layers of dust. As they approached, Liam let out a low whistle. "That's no natural formation," he muttered, his voice tinged with disbelief. Rachel simply stared, her mouth slightly open. Even Cale seemed taken aback, his glowing eyes widening as he took in the sight. The object resembled a ship, though it looked nothing like anything humanity had ever built. Its design was sleek and organic, almost as if it had grown rather than been constructed. Strange symbols were etched into its surface, glowing faintly with a soft blue light. Rachel reached out instinctively, her fingers brushing against the cool metal. "It's warm," she murmured, pulling her hand back quickly. "Like it's alive." Cale stepped forward, his movements cautious but deliberate. "This is not Zorathian," he said, his tone heavy with wonder. "Nor is it human. This belongs to someone else entirely." He paused, turning to face the group, someone far older. As they stood there, staring at the ancient vessel, a sudden rumble shook the ground beneath their feet. Sand slid down the sides of the dune, revealing more of the ship's massive form. Rachel stumbled back, grabbing onto Liam for balance. "What's happening?" she asked, her voice rising in alarm. Cale raised a hand, signaling for calm. "I do not know," he admitted, "but I believe we are about to find out." The rumbling subsided as quickly as it had started, leaving behind an eerie stillness. Slowly, a section of the ship began to shift, folding inward like liquid metal. A bright light spilled out from within, illuminating the stunned faces of everyone present. For a moment, no one moved. Then, from inside the ship, a voice echoed, not in words, but in feelings. It was welcoming, yet piercingly intelligent. "Come," Cale said finally, breaking the silence. "We have been invited." And with that, the unlikely group stepped forward, drawn by curiosity and the promise of answers hidden within the mysterious craft. The sky above the desert was clear, dotted with stars that seemed to stretch endlessly. In the quiet darkness, a faint hum filled the air, growing louder by the second. A small group of aliens stood silently near their sleek, silver craft, their forms shimmering slightly as if they were more energy than flesh. Their leader, Cale, tilted his head upward, scanning the horizon with glowing eyes. Earth was strange, messy, chaotic, yet oddly fascinating. It wasn't supposed to be this way. According to their data, this planet should have been primitive, its inhabitants simple and unaware. But something about Earth felt different. Cale turned to his crew, exchanging silent thoughts through their telepathic link. "This place is unusual," he said finally, his voice calm but edged with curiosity. "There's an energy here we didn't detect from orbit, something ancient." His words hung in the air, unanswered but understood. The others nodded, their translucent forms rippling like water under moonlight. They had come to explore, to gather knowledge, and perhaps bring back something valuable to Zorethia. This unexpected discovery only deepened their intrigue. Meanwhile, miles away, two humans were preparing for a routine expedition. Liam Carter adjusted the straps on his backpack, while Rachel Bennett double-checked the equipment in their jeep. Both worked at a nearby research facility dedicated to studying unexplained phenomena in the desert. Over the years, they'd heard countless rumors of strange lights, mysterious artifacts, and even UFO sightings. Most were dismissed as hoaxes or natural occurrences, but every now and then, something turned up that defied explanation. "Ready?" Liam asked, glancing at Rachel. She gave him a quick nod, her dark ponytail bouncing as she climbed into the passenger seat. "Let's see what tonight brings," she replied, her tone light but tinged with excitement. They drove off into the night, the headlights cutting through the vast emptiness around them. The desert stretched out endlessly, a sea of sand dunes and rocky outcrops bathed in pale moonlight. Hours later, after setting up camp near a particularly barren stretch of land, Liam noticed something glinting faintly in the distance. Squinting, he pointed it out to Rachel. "What do you think that is?" he asked, handing her a pair of binoculars. Rachel peered through them, her brow furrowing. "It looks metallic," she murmured, "but it doesn't match any known debris patterns." Curiosity piqued, they decided to investigate. As they approached the object, they realized it was no ordinary piece of junk. Pieces of smooth, silvery material lay scattered across the ground, some embedded in the sand, others jutting out awkwardly. The edges were sharp, almost too perfect to be natural. Rachel crouched down, running her fingers over one fragment. "This isn't man-made," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "It's alien." Before either of them could react further, a soft sound behind them made them freeze. Turning slowly, they saw figures emerging from the shadows. Tall, luminous beings whose very presence seemed otherworldly. For a moment, panic gripped them, but then one of the figures stepped forward, raising a hand in what appeared to be a gesture of peace. "We mean no harm," came a voice, not spoken aloud, but resonating directly in their minds. Liam blinked, startled, while Rachel instinctively took a step back. "Who, or what, are you?" she managed to ask, her voice trembling slightly. "I am Kel," the figure replied. "We are explorers, like yourselves. We detected an anomaly here and came to investigate." He paused, tilting his head as if studying them. "You seem curious. Perhaps we can help each other." Liam exchanged a glance with Rachel, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. But there was something about Cal's demeanor, calm, measured, that made him hesitate. Whatever these beings were, they didn't appear hostile. And if they truly wanted to understand the mystery before them, maybe teamwork was the key. "What exactly are you looking for?" Liam ventured cautiously. Cal gestured toward the metallic fragments. "Answers," he said simply. "And perhaps a way home." Rachel hesitated, then nodded slowly. "If you're willing to share what you find, we'll help," she said, her voice steadying. Cal inclined his head, a hint of approval in his glowing gaze. Little did they know, this chance encounter would lead them to uncover secrets far greater than anything they could have imagined.